Facebook has just released some statistics on their own employees to kind of reveal their diversity or lack of diversity and what they plan on doing to tackle it. Now, I do want to give Facebook a little bit of credit about this because they didn't have to release this information, but they did so, and they are now kind of outlining what they plan on doing in the future to basically increase the number of non-white, non-Asian men in their company. Okay, so let me first give you a few of those statistics. Their numbers indicate that 55% of all employees are white and 36% are Asian, both groups that are widely overrepresented in the tech industry. In addition, 73% of the company's senior leadership is white. Now let's take a quick look at one of the graphs that they put out there. This is including all of the different types of jobs that Facebook has, whether it's a tech job or a non-tech job. 55% are white, 36% are Asian, only 4% are Hispanic, 3% are 2 or more races. Black, that's only 2%, and other is 0%. I don't know what other even entails, but
Turkish.
Nonetheless. Olive people.
That's right,
yeah.
Turkish and Armenian.
All right, now when it comes to gender, it's also, actually, I'm going to be honest with you guys, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, okay? So when it comes to all jobs at Facebook, Facebook's total workforce is only 32% female. I really did not expect it to be in the 30s. I thought it would be in the maybe low 20s.
Right.
So 32% is low, but I don't know, maybe I just have very low expectations.
But they also increased their workforce by 40% in the last year, and only 1% of that share was female. So like they're still making moves, but not as drastic as we'd like to see.
And
It sounds like they got to lean in a little bit more.
They do. They're going to create lean-in circles to increase diversity at Facebook, which I'll get to in just a second. But let's look at a few more graphics that I thought were interesting. So when it comes to tech-related jobs for females, the number is actually extremely low. So let's look at that graphic. So for men, it's about 84%. Women, it's 16%. So women are much less likely to be hired for tech positions at Facebook. When it comes to senior leadership, you see similar trends. 77% are male and 23% are female. Now, the company is planning on fixing this issue. The company is providing some college freshmen from minority backgrounds with mentorship through its Facebook University Training Program. On college campuses, Facebook launched Lean-In Circles, meetings of like-minded women and men. And finally, it's focused on computer science and engineering. The firm also introduced new training courses meant to root out managing biases and unconscious stereotyping. So I like this. I like that they realize it's an issue and they want to fix it. But when it comes to these types of stories, I always wonder how many women apply for these jobs, how many non-Asians apply for these jobs. I wonder, because that information is just as important. And I'm not saying that women don't apply for the jobs, but I would venture to say that men are more likely to apply for them than women.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think, kudos to them for trying to fix it, but, tech industries are notoriously like harmful or hostile environments for women. Women are discouraged from going into, the tech industry, so I think those coupled, give you these kind of numbers, and it's not just Facebook, like we're picking on Facebook, but it's the tech industry as a whole. It's Google has the problem, Apple has the problem, so it's a bigger issue that we kind of need to tackle besides this one company.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have some mixed feelings about these numbers overall. First, back to race, then I'll get to women. Get to women in a second. Okay? Something we said there, and the article said, and everybody covering the story has said, is wrong. White people are not overrepresented. They're underrepresented. 55% of Facebook employees are white. That is a lower percentage of the country than is the general population that is white. Okay? No, it's that Asians are so overrepresented that they're causing underrepresentation not just among blacks and Latinos, but also among whites. So I pose to you, what do you want to do about it? Do you want to say we should hire less Asians? See, this is where it gets tricky. So this is not an easy issue.
No, it's not.
Right? And this is what happened in California when you got rid of affirmative action. White people got all excited, like, oh, blacks and Latinos are taking our place. Let's get rid of affirmative action. They did, and then the schools became filled to the rim with Asians. And so, in fact, less whites got into the top schools in California than they did before they lifted affirmative action. Affirmative action was, in some sense, helping whites because once you lift it, you get Asians. Now, why? Is it, we're not in that right wing, right? Some races are superior and the Asian mind, come on. No, there's legitimate reasons. So some are cultural, high emphasis on education and advancement, etc. Right? That's true. It does happen. It does have an effect.
Also, high emphasis on STEM jobs, right? I think, look, the reality is a lot of people are into the humanities majors, and that doesn't lead to jobs at Facebook when it comes to tech. That's right. I think that's part of it as well. Cultural, definitely.
And that's not out of the ordinary either. For example, in Turkey, the thing that is emphasized more than anything else is engineering. Why? I don't know. It developed in that way. I'm sure there's an explanation that some anthropologists can figure out as to why Turkish society developed in the way that it did. So they'll have a lot more engineers than they will in other places. I got in a cab in Washington, D.C. There was my cab driver was Arab, and he's like, "Oh, you're Turkish? Are you an engineer?" He's like, right? And even in the Middle East, all the engineers are Turkish. That's way over generalizing. But so Anna's right. In some Asian cultures, some, not all, they've emphasized science and tech, et cetera, a little bit more. That's had an effect. And then the third part of it is how the immigration patterns worked out. So I know from my experience, so for example, Turks go to Germany, it's much easier to get there. So they can literally drive to Germany, right? So lower socioeconomic Turkish citizens went to Germany looking for jobs. Makes sense. It was really hard to get to America, so the ones that came to America already had an education and they could get a visa for higher education. That's how my dad got here. That's how a lot of Turks got here. So Turks in this country happen to be fairly high socioeconomic status, complete opposite of the Turks in Germany. So I bring that up because a lot of the Asians that got here, similar situation as the Turks. It was harder to get here, and they wound up the ones that were, some that were already educated, some that were already wealthy, some that had the will to fight through all the obstacles to get here. So they have self-selected a group here more likely to be successful for a number of factors that I just outlined. And that's what leads to 36% of Facebook being Asian. Perhaps an oversimplification, but not by much. So now, what are we supposed to do about it? Are we supposed to say, but you did a little too well, we're going to need to knock that down a little bit and bring up the other races? I don't know.
But beyond the affirmative action point, if we go back to Facebook just as a specific company, if you have a constituency that is so vast and so diverse, it seems savvy business-wise just to have people of those different backgrounds, to have those different perspectives to, report to your constituency.
Yeah, look, I think the hardest thing about hiring practices and making sure that you are taking diversity into account is that all of a sudden you find yourself picking token members of each community, and I hate that. I want the emphasis to be on skill, and I want the emphasis to be on whether or not this person is the most competent to do the job. And unfortunately, what complicates that is that we all have subconscious biases against certain groups of people. And so you have to be aware of that, and at the same time, you have to hire the best person for the job. And I don't really know what the exact solution is to it, but
I think there
it
are
is nuanced.
Systematic biases as well.
Yeah.
within the education system within our country that also contribute to what you're saying.
There are. I think it starts young. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, look, I can just speak from my personal experience as a woman. I was not, pointed in the direction of science. I was not pointed in the direction of math, which is probably good because I'm terrible at math. But I have a huge interest in science, and I wish that was emphasized to me educationally speaking, so I would have mastered it and I would have actually pursued it, right? But it all really depends on the types of messages that are thrown out there for certain groups of people.
So now when we get to solutions, I agree with some of what they're doing, right? So I think it makes sense to look at management and see if there are unconscious biases. I'm management here. I wouldn't resent that. I would welcome it. Like some people will think, oh, that's living out. No, it's not. It's being reasonable because it's scientifically proven that we have unconscious biases. It's not because you're a bad person. They do general look at American society and almost any society in the world, and they'll see, oh, there's a bias in favor of this, against this, etc., because of what we've been taught in the culture that we lived in. So if someone can point that out to me and help me get beyond it, I welcome that. I don't see that as like, oh my God, oh, what are you saying about me? Hey, bring it down. Don't be so insecure. And that might lead to it. And look, the other thing is, there are, and why I think Facebook is actually, I'm less concerned about Facebook than I would be about a traditional older company. And I'll tell you why. Because firemen used to hand their jobs down to their sons. Plumbers handed their jobs down to their sons. Carpenters, guys working at a plant in Detroit wanted to give their job to their son. And so when you brought in affirmative action, they would say, no, I don't want that black guy coming in. Not necessarily because they hated black people, although some might have, right? But mainly because they wanted to protect that job for their kid, for their kin, right? And so you've got to break through that cycle. That's why I agree with affirmative action in the beginning. Now, I don't think that Facebook has been around long enough for people to be doing that kind of institutional bias, right? So I think that these numbers came up rather organically. I don't think that Facebook had any outward bias. They might have had unconscious bias like we all do, right? And they looked at who applied, and they chose the best candidates. I mean, it is hard to get into Facebook, Google. These top tech companies are really great jobs. I mean, it's no joke to get accepted by these companies. You got to go through a tremendous process. And so in a lot of ways, I mean, I don't want to overstate it, but they are, some of them are the best of the best. So I don't want them not to have those opportunities, but I do want to open our horizons as to who might belong in that category. So if you do want to lean in trying to figure out who might belong in that category from other races and make a little bit more of an effort, or especially in the case of women, say, hey, maybe we got to open our horizons a little bit and see, not especially, actually, equally, whether it's women or other races, and whether they go on campus or whether it's what they do with management or the hiring process, well, then that's great. There's no harm in it. There's something really positive in it. But I'm with Anna. I wouldn't want to force, like, okay, now give me 37% women, give me 12% Latinos. Now, don't go in that direction. Don't be mindless, right? Have an intelligent response to this so that we could be more inclusive and still get the best talent.